So, Rich, we have known each other for nearly 10 years, and I have loved watching you live your life the way you do today. I honestly, and I have chills saying this, when I see you, and I could cry about this. This is how much I love seeing you on the water. Like I really, really do. When you said to me, when you said, I'm not sure, should I come to your podcast? Am I the right person? I'm like, you have no idea how right you are for my podcast because of the way you have lived your life and the way you spend your time. I'm envious of it. I see you, I see you paddling in the ocean and talking to the whales and the dolphins. And I always say to myself, Rich is a very innocent soul. And your mind is probably saying, you're probably thinking, oh, she doesn't know I did this in my life. I did that. I did this bad thing and that bad thing. Even though I'm sure there are things that you have done that you're maybe ashamed or wished you didn't do, I believe the reason why you spend hours in the ocean like this is because your soul is so connected to the dolphins and the whales, my friend.
I have to ask you what you mean by the word innocent. And then I have to touch on what's going on in the world today and how I literally, the dolphins are right there and I cannot go be with them right now. But what do you mean by innocent?
There's this innocence because of the joy and how much you feel when you're in the ocean. And what I would love to do is maybe somehow add a segment of the dolphins within the video. So when we air it,
Sure.
that it will go over our voices and we'll see the dolphins and you. Hopefully we can pull this off. But I see a level of innocence in you. This is why you feel so much emotion and joy when you're there. You would not be able to feel this, to experience the way you're experiencing it if you didn't have this innocence within you, Rich.
I'll take that. It's interesting that you start with that in this conversation because I've kind of, like a lot of people, lost a sense of time over the last few weeks.
Yes.
And I think it's been about a month since our beaches have all been shut down. So I live on a beach right here that pretty much every day, at least once, if not twice, in the morning and at the end of the day, I'll go in my garage, grab my paddleboard, walk down this cliff, and boom. I mean, I could literally be from my house onto the water in less than 60 seconds.
And I remember you telling me, correct me if I'm remembering this wrong, you would go like at 6 a.m. You go early normally.
It depends on the time of the year. If it's it's actually right around this time of year and moving towards the summer, it's pretty common that we have blue whales off the coast of Laguna Beach. So when I know that there's blue whales, which for anyone that's not familiar, and I would love it if we can transpose some photos and videos so people can see.
And I was looking at your art, Fine Art America or something like that. I went there, and there's one with the whale's tail, really blue, in your book, and we're gonna link your book, and it's for your we will talk about everything. I feel like I was in the ocean with you for the last hour or two because
nice.
I was swimming there with you. Rich, let's start from the beginning. I want one of the things I do with my audience is that I give them context and they get to know you and your journey and your story. And then when they find you on the paddleboard, they understand how you got there, and they also can see themselves getting there too, because they know that your story hasn't been easy, and they know that it took you a long time to get there and to understand the importance of that. So when we go back to your childhood, when was the first time you felt alive? Like you remember that kid-like self that you see on the paddleboard today. When was the first time you remember that part of you as a child?
I love this. I don't think I've ever personally connected the dots from my childhood. I've connected it probably from here to today, which we'll get into when we talk about things like meditation and whatnot and how that led me to my connection with the ocean, but I never took it all the way back to the beginning. So this will be fun. And I was gonna say, I hope that instead of looking at my face right now, we're seeing videos of dolphins and whales. That might be better to look at.
We will add them, we'll throw them in.
For me as a kid, immediately when you said memories of first really feeling alive and like a child were anything related to sports. I mean, I grew up, that's all I did that I really remember growing up. You name the sport, it was, I was always a short, white, Jewish kid, but for some reason, basketball was my best sport growing up. I mean, from the time I was a little kid, so I played basketball and baseball and flag football and golf and like you name it. But basketball was always like, I don't know why, that was just the one I was most drawn to and pretty darn good at for a little short white Jewish kid.
So basketball was your kid-like experience that you loved doing. You were in Florida, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I was born in Chicago. When I was 8, my parents moved us to South Florida, where I lived for like 30 years.
And during that, and I know when you moved, and before we go there, and I hope it's okay that we're going to go there too, but when you were there in Florida, how did you feel like your friends viewed you? How did you feel you were seen by your friends?
Oh, wow. I always felt as a kid that I was always in the in crowd, but I never felt like I belonged. I always felt like a fringe dweller. So I was in like, I hung out with the popular kids and you know, went to all the right parties and all, you know, was in the right clique, if you will. You know, you had all these different cliques and especially like in high school, and there were the kids that hung out on the other side of the fence and they were the burnouts, but I was like in the cool clique, but I never felt like I belonged. I always felt like an outsider.
You felt like an outsider. Was it because you didn't see yourself as them the way they were? You perceived yourself differently?
Christina, you warned me we were going to go in all kinds of places, and
I know.
it's funny because whenever I'm interviewed, I'm like, I don't want to know the questions. Don't tell me your questions.
No.
I'm not going to give you questions, but I'm not going there, but ask me anything that you want. And I knew you'd go deep. So I don't know. What did I feel like? I don't know. I just always felt like even from the time I was a little kid, I was always kind of questioning life and existence and how we got here. And one of my very early memories, which I haven't thought about in probably 20 years, was I had a waterbed when I was a little kid.
You had a waterbed?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to waterbeds, by the way. I don't know where they went.
See the connection?
Oh my God, yes. Never thought of that. So I had a waterbed, and I remember I'd be laying in my bed, and the blinds would be open, and the sun would come up, and you would see the light coming in, and you'd see dust particles in the air. And I was a little kid, and I must have just learned about this thing called atoms, that atoms were the thing that made all life. And I thought the dust I thought I was seeing atom particles. And I remember being a little kid, and I was like questioning like the big picture of life. And like, I always felt like I don't know, like I came from somewhere else, or I didn't really belong here. It was confusing as a child. And I think that I just got super involved in sports. And I can tell you this, growing up, I was very much trying to prove myself. I was always trying to like prove myself in sports and in school, which didn't always go that well in school, but definitely in sports. I practiced my ass off. I tried so hard. I probably lost some of the enjoyment of it because I was trying so hard. And that I could definitely, when we fast forward to the ocean a little while, I can relate that, how I don't try to do that anymore. Like when I paddleboard, I don't compete. I'm not a racer. I have no interest in that. I'm just out there for the experience of it. So, but yeah, as a kid, it was definitely that would be the main theme. Looking back, I was always trying to prove myself.
And that can feel like you are never able to let go the way you're letting go. And that's what I'm saying. You see how important it is to look at your journey, because you being on that paddleboard, letting go, you're bringing also that kid self that really wished was able to know this kind of life, that he didn't have to compete, he didn't have to belong, he wanted to look out the window and try and understand the atoms and what we're made of, and we come from. And that's amazing. That's a conversation I would have any day.
And that you can take me back, to my childhood anytime you want. But when I look at the world today, this is the magic of this crazy time that we're in, is that everybody is kind of forced to stop, to go inward, to look at these things, to let go. I mean, the surrender is a word that I've been thinking about I always do, but as I was gearing up to talk to you, like in my mind, like, okay, what's the theme of this? And it's about surrender. Like, I can't even there's a lot bigger issues in the world than this guy's ability or lack of ability to walk down to the sand, hop on the board and go out there and track some dolphins down. I get that. Like, that's nothing in the scheme of things, but like, that's something I've done every day for the past decade. I can't do it. And it's right there. So it's forced me just to maybe do what I didn't have the conscious ability to as a little kid, and realize none of that stuff really matters. Like, when we surrender and go deep, it's like, we'll get there. But I didn't have that ability when I was a kid.
And I think, and we'll talk about how that happened, but I think the paddling has saved your life in many ways. I really feel that.
That's a bold statement, but when we get more into my journey, once I got to California, I think you're pretty close.
Tell me, before we go to your adult years, young adult years, what was the hardest moment in your life as a child, all the way to 18?
Oh, it's funny because I was probably right around 18 when it happened. It was the first time I had my heart broken. Mm-hmm. So watch this. My parents met not only their freshman year in college, but they met the week of orientation.
Wow.
In Bloomington, Indiana University. They were probably 18 years old. Like, the first week they met each other, and they're still together, and they'll both be 80 this year. I mean, they've been together, 62 years.
When is your dad's birthday?
His birthday is August 12th, and my mom's May 13th.
My dad is going to be 80 June 14th. So we have the same. My mom is 10 years younger than him, but he's turning 80, and I can't be with him either because he's in Greece. We were planning.
Right, our whole family. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyways, so growing up, my vision of love was you meet someone, you fall in love, and that's it. And not only did my parents do that, and they're together 62 years, my oldest sister, Robin, who is very close with me, she runs my company. She's run my business for 12 years. She met her husband when she was 14. When she met her husband, who was 16, and they're still together. And that was like almost, 35, 40 years ago now. So that's what I saw. You meet, piece of cake, and you're with that person. So I followed my parents in their footsteps and went to college at Indiana University. And I kid you not, right the freshman year, I somehow landed the most beautiful girl on the campus.
Wow.
Like, drop dead knockout. Everybody hated me because they're like, how the hell did that guy land her? Like, every guy wanted her. Somehow I got her. And looking back, she was beautiful, but extremely messed up and like just major issues and whatnot. But when you're 18, you don't really realize those things. You're just like, I got a pretty girlfriend. Well, we were together like 2-3 years, and then she just totally dumped me. And like, I was like, what do you mean? Like, we're going to get married and have a family and spend the rest of our lives together. And she was like,
happens to everyone I know.
Right. That was my view of relationships, right? That's the way it is. And I remember her being like, she's like, we're like kids. She's like, I got to go see the world. Like, what are you talking about? And I had zero capacity to deal with that. And that was a traumatic moment, because before I met her, like, my mom was my mom. Like, that was you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, this young, beautiful girl that I now have this intimate relationship is like replaces mom as woman.
Yeah.
And then she just broke my heart into a million pieces.
And she just left, Rich. She just left.
So the story gets worse. So this was like now senior year in college. We were together 3 years, and senior year she breaks up with me. She moves. She was from Chicago, where I was from originally. So I go back to Florida after I graduate. She gets a job with some big pharmaceutical company. I can't remember, and they could have placed her anywhere in the country. And I kid you not, they placed her in the exact town that I grew up in outside of Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Oh my
So
gosh.
after she breaks my heart, she gets this job 2 minutes from where I lived. And I'm like, this is a sign, babe. Like, obviously we're supposed to be together. And she was like, no, no, no. So it's just like, yeah, it was kind of torturous. It's funny because like I've had my relationship karma apparently hasn't been as good as some other people in some other areas of my life starting back then.
But there's we're gonna go a little crazy in this next statement, but there's a reason why she was placed again 2 minutes from you. And I believe that there are some people who are our soulmates. We have more than one. I think that your journeys, you were supposed to kind of go like this a few times in your life. And I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't crossed paths with her again since then.
I had.
You have, right?
Oh no, it gets better. So I moved
I don't know this. I didn't know.
I moved to California 14 years ago.
Yes.
I was here for several years, I don't know how many years, 5 years-ish. And this was the time where like Facebook started taking off, and all of a sudden everybody's friends with their high school classmates and college people. So one day I'm like, I was just curious. So I'm like, I'm going to look this girl up. I go onto Facebook. She's in LA.
Right around the corner from you. And that's what I'm saying. There's a reason why you keep passing each other like this, Rich.
She moved to LA. I called her up, and I wound up she moved to Beverly Hills, like a little over an hour from where I'm at in Laguna Beach. And I went up there one day, this is years ago now, and we had the most amazing day and night together. It's kind of like how I feel with you. Like all years could go by where we don't talk. Yeah. And then like right now, it's like not a minute has gone by. That's how I felt with her. Like we remembered these little tiny details from 25, 30 years before. It was crazy. And it was very healing actually, because like I said, I was 17 when I met her, 20 when the relationship finally blew up. And I had very limited emotional self-awareness at that time. There's days where I still don't know how much I have, but back then, like almost none. And she basically was so like loving and apologetic, explaining what she was going through when she was 18 and 19 and her upbringing and how that kind of skewed her reality. And she basically she was kind of mean when I knew her. And it was just a protective mechanism. And so it was very healing. And we were both super like just loving and apologetic for anything that happened, that we had let go of a long time ago. It was really nice, but it was kind of funny when I found out she is
she married with kids now?
She finally did get married and has kids. She had kids like in her, like in her mid 40s, like wow. What would normally be considered very late, but she finally did. Yeah. So I haven't talked to her in a while now, but I'll make sure she's watching this.
And it's amazing how, and I didn't know this story, and I didn't know you met her again or anything like that. But as soon as you said she moved close to you, with her job, I knew that you guys are supposed to be crossing paths like this throughout your life. There's some people in our lives that will keep crossing each other over and over again. And that's a part of our destiny. It's a part of our story. They might not be the main story anymore, but they're part of that group of souls. And I don't know if you believe in this kind of thing. I do. I really believe that there's a group of souls that we interact with in a deeper level than other people.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So I know you were not married to her, but you did get married to someone.
I did.
And you got divorced.
Yes.
Would you share with us a little bit about her? I'm so sorry. I know. Share a little bit about her, because I know this was hard. A lot of our listeners have lost relationships to divorce, death, breakups, rejections. There's all sorts of things, right? And everyone goes through this. So tell me about the woman you married.
Sure. Oh God.
And what
You bring up
happened?
all these things I haven't talked about in so long. It's
Yeah.
funny. I don't have a lot of emotion around my ex-wife because when I look back, I met her when I was 24. She was Cuban, still is. It's funny. Her and I had a very long text communication a few months ago, and we're super close still. Years could go by where we have any communication. But when I could text her right now and she would reply and it would be very sweet and loving. I sent her a gift, actually. We had a conversation. I sent her a cool gift somebody gave me that I couldn't use. Anyways, yeah, I was 24 years old. I met her at a Christmas party. She's Cuban, very vivacious, very affectionate. And when I met her, like she was just super physically affectionate. And I was like, oh, this feels good. And we just started dating, and I don't know, we dated for 3-4 years. We got married, and then we were together 5 years. I don't have any real emotion around that relationship. At the time when we got a divorce, it was for sure hard, but like I quickly realized like this was not the love of my life. Like at 20, here's my experience as a man. I don't think we really know much as men until like our 40s when it comes to emotional self-awareness, love, relationships. So at 24, I fell in love with a woman because she was physically affectionate with me. Like that's not a very deep reason to, fall in love with someone and marry them. And so when the relationship finally dissolved, it was hard for a while because I had my whole life laid out. I look back and I'll tell you this is the part of the story I'll share with her. We had no passion left in the relationship. At the beginning, extremely passionate. She's Cuban, she's vivacious, and it was a lot of fun. Hold on. And that passion died. And then one day I sat her down. It was a Monday morning. And I sat her down and I was just like, babe, like, what's going on here? Like we lost the passion. Like I was the man, right? We're going to fix this. Let's get that passion back. And one thing I know about women is that they know they're going to do things well before they actually do them. Like they're kind of keeping a tally, a score.
They've thought about it.
They thought about it.
Yes.
Where we don't necessarily think that far in advance.
Yes.
So when I sat her down and said, hey, let's get the passion back, she looked at me and said, I think I'd be better off on my own. To which I said, huh? And she said, I think I'd be better off on my own. And then I must have had the look of the cow watching the train go by or deer in the headlights. Like I didn't know what that meant. And she's like, I'll lay it out for you. She goes, I think I want to be single. I had no idea. Like it just hit me out of left field. But she was done. Like there was we actually I convinced her to go to a therapist. And we were in this therapist appointment for like 10 minutes. And I literally stood up out of my chair and I said, there's no reason to be here. Like she's done. And I walked out. And that, the part of the story that I want to share, as she was saying these words, I could see them like rolling off her tongue like a cartoon. I think I'd be better off on my own. The first words that came out of my mouth, and it was almost like spirit talking through me, was, this is the greatest gift you've ever given me.
Wow.
And I remember I'm like, why the fuck? Can I swear on your show? I can swear it. I was like, why the fuck why am I saying this right now? And I said it again. I said, this is the greatest gift you've ever given me. I had no idea what that meant at that time, but looking back, that was I had my whole life laid out. We were living in the suburbs of Fort Lauderdale in this big 6-bedroom box with a 3-car garage. So we were living in the right neighborhood on a fake man-made lake, basically in the swamp of Fort Lauderdale. Like, no offense to anyone that still lives there, but it was like,
it wasn't for you.
It was not for me. I was selling real estate. Like
that's right. You were in realty. That's right.
It was like, which did not feed my soul. Like but I was going to continue down that path because that's what you did. That's all I knew. So I think looking back, this is the greatest gift you ever, could ever give me. I mean, look what it led to, moving to California and the ocean and all these things.
How soon, Rich, did you move from when the divorce ended, you sold your house. How
Yeah.
soon? And I remember you and I discussed this. You moved quickly later.
So I think it was October, end of October. It was definitely October. Everything bad in my life happens in October.
It's a
anytime I can,
portal.
anytime I can make it through in October unscathed, I'm like, I did it. Oh my God, it happened again. It's funny. Last October too, it happened again. Oh, hopefully hopefully we don't have time to go that far. But anyways, this happened in October. And then on January 6th, it took a couple months of sorting things out. But in January 6th of the next year, I woke up in Key West, Florida. I had walked away from the marriage, the house. I said, take the house, take everything in it. I don't want any of it. I walked away from my business that was doing like $500,000 a year in income. I'm like, that business isn't working for me. I don't give a shit about any of this. And I walked away and I moved to Key West, and I lived there for, I think it was about 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
No, almost 3 years. And then in October, again, I got wiped out by a hurricane in Key West. So I basically lost everything in the divorce, moved to Key West, set up shop, moved there with the intention of just kind of finding myself, if you will, and starting over and slowing down. And then got wiped out, was in another relationship. That's a whole nother story we can get into, but got wiped out by a hurricane, October 25th of 2005, right after Hurricane Katrina came through. Another hurricane came through, wiped out my house and all my stuff. And then I moved to California with 2 duffel bags, one in each hand, everything I owned in the world. And I wound up right here, and yeah, here I am.
What year was it that you moved to California?
2006, 14 years ago.
2006. That's amazing. That's 2006. That's when my husband died. In 2006 is a significant year for me as well. It's
Wow.
I see events, dates when something happens in the year, in the calendar year, again at the same time. It's like, I believe it's a portal that takes us to a different universe. We change life. And your portal, for better or for worse, was in October. 2006 was a big portal, big change for me. 2006 was also for you.
Yep.
So you moved to California, and I know you live very close to the ocean, a dream of mine. I grew up in the ocean, and then ever since I've been looking for that. Was it because of your experience in realty that you were able to land your house? How did you get from the 2 suitcases? Remember, someone is listening who is out of a relationship, out of a divorce. They don't want to be doing this shit that they were doing before. I'm sorry, guys, but they want to change their life like you. Yeah. And there they are with 2 bags.
Yeah.
What did you do next?
So I had a business. I always knew I'd move to California. I had a business. There's 2 things that brought me here. From a financial aspect, it was a business opportunity. The only things I've ever done in my life are sell real estate and also coach, which is what I've done for 20 years now.
Yeah.
And I had a very good friend who was starting a coaching company in Newport Beach, next town over from where I'm sitting right now. And he's like, yeah, come to California, help me grow this coaching company. So that was the practical reason I moved here. At the same time of the hurricane, though, I met a spiritual teacher. Some would consider him to be an enlightened master, a meditation teacher. And right at the time of the hurricane, he and I had, we talk about moments that change the direction of your life. Well, this was another one. He and I did a meditation. I was in Key West. He was 3 blocks that way. And my whole world turned upside down in this one-on-one meditation that we did 3,000 miles apart. And it was like, it's hard to put into words how powerful, anyone that's had a powerful meditation, you know what I'm talking about. It was like a doorway open that I didn't know existed. Okay. And so that was a huge part of the reason, not only that I moved here, it was like the practical reason was a business opportunity. The impractical and deeper reason was, and that's why I moved to Laguna Beach, was to be right near him. So
do you share his name or who he is?
Whoa, nah, it doesn't even matter right now. That's a whole nother story. He and
Yeah,
I had a huge falling out a couple of years after I got here, but I'm forever indebted to him for the
yeah.
meditation and the energy and the experience that I had with him forever.
And your
So,
meditation, and Rich, you having that experience. I mean, uh, he was just standing at the door. I think that you were the one that experienced the meditation. You were ready for that journey. I say this to people when people say, "Oh my gosh, I had this amazing experience because of this." The
oh
experience
yeah,
is yours. You own that experience. You, whether it was with him or it would have been with someone else, it would have been the same result.
uh, maybe, yeah. Like he would always say, because I remember I would always say to him, like, how did I get here? Like I'd be at a restaurant with him, this enlightened master, and I'm like, how did this happen? Like, this is weird. Like, and he would say, you were called. Like you
You,
were,
it's
yeah,
you.
that's what he
Yeah,
said. He would say, you were called to awaken from the dream and enlighten your consciousness and help to raise the
yeah,
collective consciousness of the planet. To which I
yeah.
said, that sounds good. What's for lunch? But he was the reason. So he lives literally 3 blocks from where I'm sitting right now. And this is another October story is coming. I bought a home 3 blocks from here, about a stone's throw from his house, literally just to be close to that energy, to be in what this love vortex, this energy vortex. Well, I bought at the moment the real estate market peaked in 2006 is when
Yes.
I bought my house. And then all of a sudden, boom. So I wound up selling that house. This is another, like, feels really bad in the moment. Oh, this is good. I'm giving myself chills. If this is another, feels really painful in the moment, but on the other side of it, something way better. And this is what happened. So I short sold that. I bought that house for an ungodly amount of money and then sold it for a lot less. Short sold it. It was, financially not good. And what happened was I used to run. Before I fell in love with being on the ocean, I would run. And I would run down the street that I live on. If I go like this for a second, the ocean is right
Show me.
there.
Oh my God,
A
I
little
can see
cloudy
it.
today, but it's right there.
Yeah.
So I would run down the street. And every day I would run. And then one day I saw a for rent sign in front of this house. And I'm like, wait, that sign was not here yesterday. And it's not going to be here tomorrow. So literally that day, I came in, I looked at this house, I walked up right through this room out on that deck, and the ocean is just right there. And I was like, I wrote a check on the spot. I'm like, I want this house. And that was 10 years ago. When I still rent this house. When I rented this house, I had no idea, number one, that this beach right here is the best beach to paddleboard from that anywhere, because even if there's waves everywhere in Laguna Beach, our little beach is set on a little angle. I can paddle out pretty much any day of the year, number one. Number two, I had no idea that there's more species of dolphins and whales off the coast of right here, Orange County, California, than anywhere on the planet.
Wow.
I could go on and on about the different species of dolphins and whales, like you name it, I can get on my board. I mean, I've paddled with orcas, blue whales, which are the largest animal on the planet. We were talking about them at the very beginning. Gray whales that are still migrating through right now, humpback whales, minke whales, common dolphins, bottlenose dolphin, Rizzo's dolphins, Pacific white-sided dolphins, like all right here. I had no idea. And it just kind of happened. Like, I can't say that I planned this.
How did you tell me the first day? And this is, I'm obsessed with beginnings. I'm so obsessed with it that I can't even, I got chills just hearing this part. Do you remember the first day you did this, and tell us about that day? And imagine, and this is why I want people to really understand this. Your life could be one way. You could be in realty. You could be, even you moving somewhere, you think your life is going to continue in a typical kind of way, more or less, even if you're changing location. And then one day, without plan, without anything, something happens and you make a different choice. I want to know about that moment, Rich. I really do.
So I'd start paddling out every day. And at first, I just fell in love with the view. Because if you've been to Laguna Beach, like when you're on land and look out to the ocean, it's beautiful. But all of a sudden, when you're out on the ocean and you look back at the coastline, it's a whole different view.
Yeah.
So that was my first thing, was like, wow, the view is beautiful. And then paddleboarding became many things for me. It became my exercise.
Yeah. Because you always exercised. You always, the basketball, the running, you always moved. Yeah.
It was a new way of exercising out on the ocean in nature. Hello, it doesn't get any better than that. And then it became my meditation. Like you and I, we could spend 2 hours easily talking about the fallout that I had with my meditation teacher and the spiritual disillusionment that came from that, and how for a long time I couldn't even sit in meditation and stare at my third eye because it was so weird what happened with him and I. But the ocean then became my meditation. So it became more of a moving meditation. And then, to answer your question, then the dolphins showed up.
Tell me about that. Tell me that, like, you were just doing your thing.
I'm gonna tell you I'll tell you the turning point story. So I noticed I'd go out there and I would see dolphins like every day. And then I'd come back like to the beach and I was like, did anyone else see those dolphins? And I was like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I go back out the next day and I'd have dolphins everywhere. And I've always been someone that loves to capture moments. So what I started to do was I'd bring a camera out there and I'd snap some very mediocre photos of these dolphins. And then over time, I got a little fancier, and then I got a GoPro. So now when I go out there, I wear a hat and I put the GoPro on my hat. And so I can videotape and people see exactly what I'm seeing. So I started getting a little fancier with that. But the turning point story was this. Normally I would just stay right along the coast because we have literally the dolphins will be like 200 yards offshore, like right there. I don't have to go out very far. But one day I was out there and I look all the way to the horizon and I see, Christina, these massive spouts. And I'm like, that's really far away and that's a really big spout. And I was all by myself and my curiosity got the best of me. So I start paddling. And all of a sudden I find myself in the presence of 2 blue whales. Now a blue whale is about 100-foot long whale. Imagine 2 school buses. They're the largest animal that has ever lived on this planet. T-Rex, the biggest dinosaur, is like 50 feet. This is twice the size of the largest dinosaur. And I'm out there surrounded by these whales, and it was like the most magical moment ever. So I'm out there with them, I come back in, and the next day, I go right back to the exact same spot that I was at, and there was a buoy, that was my guide, there was a buoy out in the water. I'm looking out there because it was right out there. And I see a guy in a boat, and he's working on this buoy. And I said, hey, I said, how far offshore are we? I had no idea. He goes, exactly 2 miles offshore. Wow. And what he said was there's a spot out 2 miles. It actually starts about 1.5 miles out from right here, where the ocean floor drops off. Most of the way out, it's like 200 to 300 feet deep. And then all of a sudden, there's a spot, it's called the 100 fathom. A fathom is 6 feet. All of a sudden, it drops down to 600 feet. And because of the drop off, there's an upwelling of the food and everything in the water. And there's this little thing called krill, which are little shrimp-like crustaceans. And blue whales, the largest animal on the planet, happens to eat one of the smallest little things on the planet, which is this krill. They eat millions of little krill a day. And they don't have migration patterns like humpback whales or gray whales do. They pretty much go where the food is. And it just so happened that year, and for like 3 straight years, every day for months, pretty much all of August and September, the whole summer, these blue whales would show up. I mean, there were days so pretty much every morning for 2 straight months or longer, I would paddle straight out first thing in the morning, a couple miles. I'd have a 50% chance of blue whales being there. And there were times where I literally saw 24 blue whales, like everywhere you would look.
How did that, like, first of all, the first time you went out there, were you scared at all? That's a long way out, right? In a long way into the 2 mile.
I'll put it this way. Whenever I'm with any of these animals, I am always very alert. scared's not the right word, because with a blue whale, they're incredibly docile.
But
They're
they could
they
every time
could,
they could by accident shake
yeah,
you off, right?
they're completely harmless, but by accident, yeah. I mean, theoretically, one, it could pop up and not see me. They're extremely aware of their bodies, though. I look at it this way. To me, being 2 miles out on the water and is a lot safer than driving on the 405.
Yeah,
And if that's the
and
way I gotta go,
this
I
is the way
gotta
to go.
give
And
up.
Rich,
Yeah.
do you when it first started to happen? First of all, it sounds like you're very awake. You are alive, very alive when you're in there. Like the most alive, like time stops, right?
Yes.
And did you have an experience when you're there? Like apart from being really alert and really aware and awake,
Yeah.
is there anything else that's happening in the ocean for you? There must be.
Well, two things. Probably the thing I'm most known for, if you will, that was like changed everything, was 5 years ago, January 7th, 2015. I paddled with a pod of orcas. And before the orca paddle, I had paddled tons of times with blue whales and all these different species that I mentioned before. But I would have these dreams of being with orcas. I would have these vivid dreams where I'd be on my deck right here, and I would see these orcas 10 times bigger than life just flying out of the water, like literally in my dreams. And then one day, January 7, 2015, that dream became reality. Same exact spot, 2 miles offshore. There was a pod of 4 orcas. Like if to this day, if you Google orcas Laguna Beach, my video will pop up.
We are adding this video under YouTube, under the notes. I want to make sure people also watch that too, because I remember that went viral and every news station picked it up, Rich, right?
Yeah, so I had this encounter with the orcas, and the thing is, it was so profound that I didn't share it with anybody for a while. In fact, part of me was like, don't ever share it. Keep it to yourself. A, because it was such a personal thing, and B, I knew I'd probably get some flack because people get a little weird. I'm not breaking any law. And I've actually talked with federal agents about it just to make sure like there's nothing illegal about what I do out on the ocean. But I knew it would get a lot of attention and I didn't want that, any negativity. So I kind of kept it to myself and I just showed it to a couple close friends and they were just like, dude, this is way too cool. Like you have to share this. And so I did. All I did was I put it on my personal Facebook page.
I remember.
I did nothing else. I did nothing else. I didn't like try to, like you were saying at the beginning, when I was younger, I probably would have tried to push it out there. I just put it on my page and I kicked back and the thing just went, within like 24 hours, it was playing all around the world. And what the best part about it, it was funny because I was sitting in this chair, but the second day after I put it out, every top ocean organization that I would wanted to have connected with all contacted me. Like I'm talking PETA, Save the Whales, Blackfish, Mission Blue, which is Sylvia Earle's organization. She's like a hero of mine, etc. They all asked if they could run the story. So that was like, that was my moment when I finally realized, some friends of mine said to me right around then too, they were like, the person being called is always the last one to realize they're being called.
You were called.
That was my moment where I was like, okay, wait, there's a little more to this than just me going out there and hanging out with these animals. Like this is a bigger calling in my life. That was the big turning point moment when I realized.
And you were dreaming of them before it happened. Tell me your beliefs about this, because I believe we live outside of time and space. I believe that we are connected within a deeper reality. This is where everything takes place. This is a hologram. This is the hologram of that deeper reality. Yeah. This is not real. The real is the second dimension where we're all one. What is your interpretation of the dream before the holographic, universe reality that's taking place here. They came to you. You were with them before you were with them.
I'll answer that, but what came to me first that I want to share is just how, like, we're living in a very challenging, interesting time right now. And to even talk about all this with you, it's hard not to get a little emotional because I can't go out there right now. Like every single beach fenced off, shut down. And so it's like just talking about it makes me miss being with them even more. And to your point, it's just a reminder of that it's all a great illusion anyways, like, you know. So I mean, for me, this has just been a time of a lot of things, of slowing down and pausing and going inward. And when I look at the environmental shifts that have occurred just in a matter of weeks, like the level of pollution has literally dropped like 60% on the planet just because we turned the engine of the world almost all the way off. Like that, nature has reset itself. So the air is cleaner, the water is cleaner. So that's been my main consolation, salvation throughout this, is like, you know, if my true love is these dolphins and whales, which it is, then I got to be really happy about that. So I can't go be with them right now. That's okay. They'll be there, you know, they'll be there when the time eventually comes that I can get back out there.
Did you hear what you just said, Rich?
Maybe. What did I say?
You know, you mentioned something about relationships and finding love, and, you know, in the beginning, and we are going to talk about that a little bit too, but it sounds like they are your true love. That's what you said.
Well, this speaks to when you talked about the dream. What came to me was the most common question I get, especially from my woo-woo friends, are like, do you talk to them? Do they talk to you? You know, how
I
do
was
you
going to ask the same thing.
Well, you're one of my woo-woo friends.
Yes.
Do you communicate with the animals? And my answer is always this. As much as I might like to say, oh yeah, we have full-on conversations, that's not what happens. I don't get messages from them. But what I do get is that when I am with them, that is the time where I am most, you used the word alive earlier, I'll use the word present. Like when I'm with them, be it a pod of jumping happy bottlenose dolphins or 100-foot blue whale, where I'm extremely alert, making sure that he doesn't pop up and kill me. I am so in the moment. I am not thinking about what happened before. I'm not thinking what I got to do later that day. I'm fully present. So the great lesson that I've received from the dolphins and whales is living in the moment. And what is the great, you know, read any spiritual book you've ever picked up. They pretty much all say the same thing. It's the power of now, of being in the present moment. So for me, the dolphins represent maybe what you were saying earlier, that innocence. They are just pure joy. Yes. They are pure love. Like they are just, they're just pure joy. I can't put it any other way. And then
and the reason why I started our conversation with this is because every time I see what's happening for you in the ocean, and the way you are with them, and the way your message went viral, even though you didn't want to let it go because you didn't know how it would end. This wouldn't have happened if you didn't have that innocent joy within you. No way this would have happened. You're connected to them through that invisible vibrational joy that you have within you. And this is not even like woohoo, you know, or like that. We all have the feeling. We have a feeling. We have an energy of some sort. And I believe that they are connecting with you because there's a part of it that is the same as them. And you said you don't have conversations when you're there. And I want to ask, I think there is communication going on apart from that presence that you mentioned.
Well, what is communication? Is there a better communication than, let's say it was you and me sitting on a couch, on that couch behind you, facing each other? What would be a better communication than us just sending energetic love back and forth? To me,
And
that's way more powerful than any words that are coming out of our mouths right now. So that's when I'm with them, that's what's happening. It's so, I mean, it's such a high, it's powerful.
And Rich, don't you think they're communicating with you as well now, even though you are separated physically?
I don't know. I haven't really gone there. I've been trying to figure out how can I get out there and just that whole thing. I haven't, like, in my meditation time or whatnot, I haven't really tuned in. I'll do that today, now that you mentioned it.
They came to you before you found them in the ocean through your dreams. I think you are connected with them within that deeper reality. There is no, that's 100%. And they're waiting for you to know this deeply. So when you are meditating, when you're not in the ocean, you're home, that you're connecting with them. And I'm going to bet right now, and you better send me a message, that they're also going to come in your dreams after this conversation.
Oh, they always come in my dreams. But I don't know. I like I said, they teach me to be in the moment, which leads me to believe that right now they're not wondering, oh, where's that guy that normally paddles out? They're so in the moment that's all they know.
They are with you. I think they're with you. Tell us, Rich, what do you think? And because I see you as the ocean guy. I mean, this is who you are. Tell us about your nonprofit organization, your book, and what is the message you want to give people out there who are in this, I call it the waiting room. As you know, we're all in this waiting room experience, the waiting room moment. We're waiting for this to change. The environment gets better. The atmosphere is clearer. The oceans are deep blue again. What is the thing that you want to tell everyone out there who's listening to this about what is really happening right now and the way we need to embrace it?
Wow, there's a lot there. So after the orca encounter, that was my moment of realizing, okay, there's more to this. Because leading up to that, for a long time, a lot of people had said, you should make a book, you should make a book, you should make a book of all your photos. And I always said, no. Because to me, the ocean was, and still is, it's my church, it's my sanctuary, it's my meditation, it's all these things. And now all of a sudden I'm making a book and I'm selling the book, now it's a business. I didn't want to commingle those things. So I always said no. But when the orca thing happened and it just went crazy and the organizations contacted me, that was my sign. I said, okay, not only am I going to create a book, but I'm going to start a nonprofit. And quite honestly, for the first couple of years, I had no idea what my nonprofit was. I knew I was supposed to do something, but I didn't know what. And then we don't have time to get into the details, but I finally figured out, oh God, okay, this is what the project's gonna be. The first main project that we put out, and I was gonna use everything that I've ever learned in my business life, which we haven't really gone into, about online marketing. And my main business right now is all about
joint ventures.
Yes, joint venturing, collaboration, bringing people together. I'm going to take everything that I know in the business world, I'm going to bring it into the nonprofit world. I'm going to bring nonprofits together. I'm going to bring cities together, and we're all going to work together to implement best practice standards so that we're all doing things together that are going to help protect the ocean. So for the last I talked earlier a couple times about having to surrender to this time that we're in right now. For the last 2 years, my team and I have been behind the scenes building this project, and we were supposed to launch it a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
Not going to happen right now. It's on a pause.
But that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, I don't even know what to make of that fully yet.
That's not, oh my gosh. What do you think the message is here? You were supposed 2 weeks when quarantine really started, 3 weeks ago we started, and it's almost like the environment is getting ready for you.
I don't know. I'll share what I'm. So it's like, we were going to launch this thing that's going to be amazing and still will be. And I've just had to be like, okay, we have to wait. It involves cities. It's a certification program working with cities, starting along the coast of California, but then moving nationwide and globally. Like, it's a major thing. well, cities are a little preoccupied with
Yeah.
with other things right now than our program. So we're on a pause. It'll still happen. But let's go bigger picture. I don't want to at all diminish the suffering that's occurring in the world right now, the health impacts, the death, the economic breakdown that's occurring, and just the overall level of fear that people have. And no one's immune to any of these things. By no means do I diminish that. Like I take that very seriously. On the flip side, the positive impact of what's occurring in the environment, like we talked about, and the levels of pollution, and just turning that dial all the way down. I mean, I've always said that, in fact, if you, in my book, I talk about how there's a 6-mile stretch of Laguna Beach right here that is totally, not only a marine protected area, but it's a no-take zone. It is against the law to go out there and fish. Laguna Beach took a stand and just said, we're going to protect this pristine coastline, leave it alone. And what's occurred in the 8 years since they've done that has been nothing short of amazing. Like before and now, like this is, I call it the greatest aquarium in the world. It's not a coincidence that there's so much wildlife out there. It's because we leave the ocean alone. There's tons of fish, there's tons of bait. So the dolphins come in, you know, there's a reason they're here, right?
Yeah.
And so this to me is a microcosm of the bigger picture, where if we just leave nature, the ocean alone, it has an incredible power to restore itself. This is what we're seeing right now. It's amazing. The optimist in me, Christina, wants to believe that this will be, I call it nature's great reset. The optimist in me wants to believe this is the wake-up call that we've all needed to do whatever it takes to continue to protect our home.
Yes.
The realist in me, to be totally candid, is not that confident that it'll happen. The
So
realist,
you think we won't use this as an opportunity to help the environment?
I don't know. I think if we don't, the price we will pay is 1,000 times worse than the price that we're paying in this moment.
Yeah.
If you think this virus is a big deal, just wait. If we don't learn our lesson now, just wait. If all the scientists are right and climate change begins to really have a negative impact, we're talking sea levels rising where millions of people are displaced and potentially killed. You think this is wreaking havoc right now? This is our little like flick on the back of the ear. Like, you know, the earth is basically saying, hey, humans, this is gonna, I've said this for years, well before this whole pandemic, we're gonna go one of two ways. Either A, we're gonna figure this out. All 8-9 billion of us, we're gonna figure out how to live in harmony together, in harmony with our home, and be living in a sustainable, healthy way for us and the planet. Or B, the planet's basically gonna spit us off. We're seeing a little bit of that right now on a very small scale.
But Rich, this is why your nonprofit organization, is it Project O?
Yes.
I want to say it by name, and we'll add the link as well. Project O, its importance, it's bigger now than 3 weeks ago, like bigger now. You're going to be able to say, you see what happened? There's my proof. And here's what you need to do to stop this from happening again.
Yeah. And that's really the project that we're about to roll out, is how to do that on a grassroots local level. It's working with local cities and communities to empower people. Here's what you can do as a citizen, as a business owner, as a local government. But the great thing is that by I keep saying like just picture this huge knob being turned off, by the impact of the knob being turned off is so much greater than what my little project's going to do and all these other great things that people are up to in the world. So I go back, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, the optimist in me wants to believe we will learn the lesson. We will learn to live in harmony with each other and with the planet. There's just some major powerful forces that don't give a shit about that. and they're going to turn that knob back up and even higher than ever. You know, what did our I don't even like to say his name, but our president wants to open up with a big bang. That's the last thing we need. The last thing we need.
And this is why I think your purpose on this world and planet is so clear to me, and the way you were called for this. They called you, they called your name, they came to your dreams, they met you in the ocean, and then they gave you the proof that we are supposed to be together during this, and they were preparing you for this, because if this hadn't happened, you wouldn't be in the same position you are now to really impact the world the way you believe should be impacted. Rich, if you were to go back to that little kid lying in his bed, looking through the curtains, thinking about atoms, what do you wish he knew about life then?
I mean, for me, it goes back to the great spiritual lesson that I mentioned earlier, that I believe you, the people that are attracted to you, the work that you do, and perhaps the same with me, we're here somehow to play a role in raising the collective consciousness of the planet. When I first started getting super close with the meditation teacher that I mentioned, I thought for sure, oh, this is my path. I'm going to teach meditation. I'm going to be some kind of spiritual teacher or leader or whatever. And then when things went so sideways, it was really painful. But then the consolation was pretty beautiful, falling in love with the ocean. And now it's like, oh shit, I can still do that, but through the ocean, through the dolphins and through the whales. Like for me, like all I do is show what I'm seeing. And that's like it. Like, have we taken it a step further with the nonprofit and things like that? For sure. But at the end of the day, like my work is to spread love and awareness. And, you know, as much as I love being out on the water and miss it, like you can't even believe right now, especially spending an hour talking about it, like it makes me, thanks a lot, because now I just miss it more. But as much as I love everything that I talked about, having these experiences and being out there with them, the creative in me loves capturing them through photography and video and editing my photos and videos. I love that. And then to share it and get reactions from people like you that are just like, I'm there with you. And that feels as good as being out there. So for me, I don't know, to be honest with you, I need to go deeper into this question, because I think like a lot of people over the last month or so, it's been so much going on, and we're all feeling whatever we're feeling inside, and what's our community feeling? What's the world as a whole feeling? What's going on? Why is this happening? What's behind this? There's a lot of thought, and I'm like, okay, I don't really have use for my thoughts in my mind that much. I don't care. Like, I'm starting slowly to bring it more inside and going deeper. And I think I'll have a better answer maybe for that question in the next days ahead. But I feel like it'll always go back to consciousness. Like I said, we're at this crossroads. We're going to go this way, yay, or we're going to go that way, maybe not so yay. Well, it's about consciousness. Will the planet, will humans as a whole get to a point of consciousness where we could never allow it to go in the negative? That's
I think that, and I hope that there's so many of us that are pulling this way, where we're like, we need to change, we need to reset. I say we need to re-enter, we need to do this differently. And I think that it will be a tag of war, is that the expression, for a little bit of time. I don't think it's going to be yes or no. I think it will be a maybe. And then there might be more proof that this is the way we need to go, because people, I was writing about this yesterday, we are in the stage of grief that's called denial right now. There's people out there who are like, that's not really that bad, what's happening. And I quoted Arthur C. Clarke. He said something like, and I'm going to kill this, but he said something like, you know, when people see an avalanche coming, or a tornado or a wave, and you're like, no, this is not coming to me, it's going to someone else. This is what's happening right now. So we might need another kind of kick. I wish we didn't need that, Rich, but I think you agree with me, to confirm So we're no longer in denial that this is really happening, because it's happening again. And then we will all be going that way because we want to save ourselves. That's the number one priority for humanity, unfortunately.
Yes, and I think the beauty of what we're actually seeing from a human standpoint, I think people realize what I'm doing impacts you.
Yeah.
By me pretty much being locked in my house here, and I mean, I haven't even gone to a store basically once in the last month. Like, I'm seeing the opposite a little bit. I totally agree. At the end of the day, most people are like, you know, they're going to do what they need to do to preserve themselves. But I'm seeing a lot of people really realizing how I act impacts you and how you act impacts me. And they're actually doing that, the things they're doing more so for that, which is actually, I mean, there's, like we're saying, there's a lot of beautiful things that are occurring right now because of this. And I hope, yeah, to what I said before, I hope this is enough for people. I hope this is enough of a wake-up call.
And if it's not, it will be soon, I think. And I think your work is coming at the right time. The timing of the orcas and the timing of your paddling and your move to California, I can take it. And this is why I wanted to know all the pieces that brought you to this moment. I can go all the way back to the little kid in his room with his friends, not quite belonging, because you needed to belong to something much greater than that circle of friends. And I think you belong to the world and you belong to the ocean, my friend. Tell us, where can we find you? What links can we tell people, and where can people find your amazing art so they can contribute to your nonprofit as well? And I'll be buying as well. I'm buying my own copy.
Oh, well, I will happily sign and send you a copy. First of all, I just want to thank you. I before we started, I was just thinking about there's people in our lives who we can talk to every single day, or years could go by with no communication, and it doesn't matter, because as soon as you start communicating again, it's like not a moment has gone by. And that's, you're one of those people for me, and I love this conversation and I appreciate it very much. The easiest way to get a hold of me, just on either Facebook or Instagram, because all I pretty much do is post my photos and videos. I don't have as much new content to share right now, but I've been posting some old things just for my own sake in some ways, just because I like looking at it. So if you just look up Rich German on Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's Rich German LB, like Laguna Beach. So follow me there. If you wanted to get a copy of my book, go to richgerman.com. Rich German, spelled like German, but pronounced German. And you can buy the book. 100% of the proceeds, 100% of sales on the book go to our nonprofit Project O. The Project O website, we took it down to redo the whole thing for the grand release of this big project, which was supposed to be March 31st. So it's not back up yet because of that. So I can't even give that link, but I think the best way to kind of get your feet wet with me, pun intended, would be to follow me on Facebook or Instagram. And, you know, if you like the photos and videos, you know, if you resonate with those, then you'll probably resonate with me. And like I said, if you want to get the book, I would love to send you a copy.
Thank you for everything today. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for sharing your paddling with the world and the way that you're doing it. The orcas, thank you. The whales, the dolphins, thank you. And I thank you for saying yes to that connection that you're feeling. It is your true love. And I was so excited to introduce you to my community through the perception of myself and the questions that I wanted to ask. So thank you for coming on my show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody.